All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Check out Pig and a Pickle, two locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is also sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below and make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. All right, let's talk a little bit about one of the stories of the day. Albert Breer stopped by on the Rich Eisen show and discussed Brock Purdy's pending new deal. So we're going to let you hear some of Breer with Eisen, and then we'll comment on it next. Here's Albert Breer earlier today on the Rich Eisen show discussing the Niners and their desire to get Brock Purdy's contract finished. Here it is.
The number that Brock Purdy's annual salary begins with next year is?
A 4 or a 5. Is that what you're going to ask me?
Oh, it could be a 6. Could be a 6.
I'd say a 5.
Okay.
I think they're going to find. I think they're going to find a middle ground. I think he's going to wind up not being the highest paid. But I think one thing you can do for a quarterback is you can exchange the raw dollars for maybe an extra year of guarantees where you can give him the comfort level that you are going to be our quarterback, And I think maybe the model's the Jared Goff deal, like where, like if you're the Niners, you can look at him with a straight face and you can say, we think he can bring to our team what Jared Goff brings to the Lions, And look, I know this, this thing could be simple. It could wind up becoming really complicated. We'll see. The Niners want Brock Purdy to be their quarterback. Kyle Shanahan loves Brock Purdy. And the idea of building around Brock Purdy is something that really appeals to them. And they don't want to sink to the bottom of the league and have to rebuild around somebody else. And they've already done the Trey Lance thing. And so I think they're going to find a way to get it done. And the team's going to look different around him next year. And they're going to have to deal with some different challenges having a quarterback at the top of the market on their books. But they did deal with that once with Jimmy Garoppolo. And they've got tough decisions to make on guys like Deebo Samuel, who I think is gone, and they'll have some, they'll have some free agents that they're going to have that they really like that they'll have to probably let go of, like, Charvarius Ward, and they're going to have to cut some veteran players like maybe a Javon Hargrave. I do think that Brock Purdy is going to be part of the equation, though.
All right, a little bit of Albert Breer right there from the Rich Eisen show, and Breer's really on top of this stuff. Now, let's go review what was said here. Now, Breer says that he thinks Brock's deal's AAV is going to be in the $50 million range, and I think we are starting to hear pretty consistently that a lot of people expect this deal to come down somewhere between $55 million and $60 million AAV. And it was really good to hear Breer comment on this. Now, it's pretty clear that the Niners and Kyle Strongen, who's the agent for Brock Purdy, have already had preliminary conversations, and we've already kind of heard whispers that the two sides believe there won't be any hiccups, that they'll be able to get a deal done. Jed York just said, within the last couple of days, that he thinks they'll be able to get a deal done with Brock Purdy to make him a 49er for a long, long time. And we're seeing pretty consistent messages coming out about that this deal is probably going to be in the $55 to $60 million range as far as AAV. Breer told Eisen that he says, I think they'll find middle ground. So that's good, because there was always a chance that the Niners were going to take some super strident low ball approach, and we're going to pay you Baker Mayfield money, $30 million, and not a penny more. And there was always a chance that Kyle Strongman, the agent for Brock Purdy, was going to be like, hey man, Brock's up, we want record-setting money. And it sounds like, according to Breer, that he thinks both sides will be able to find some form of middle ground, which is great news. That means that it's probably likely to get done probably sooner rather than later. Breer went on to add that he says he thinks that Brock Purdy will not be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Right now, Dak Prescott has that mantra of being the highest paid as far as AAV at $60 million a year. And Breer's thought process on this is he said, the Niners may trade kind of the raw dollars for an extra year of guarantees. So they will maybe guarantee Brock that he will be the Niners starting quarterback, but maybe they can save some raw dollars along the way. And then Breer went as far as to say that it could be very similar in structure as far as a model to the deal that the Lions signed with Jared Goff. And that Goff's deal could be the template for the Purdy deal. And then Breer went on to say, hey, the 49ers want Brock Purdy to be their quarterback. They don't want to, go down this road of somebody else. Kyle Shanahan loves Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan is on record as saying that he wants Brock Purdy to be the quarterback that he has the rest of his time in San Francisco. And I just think that, there's no doubt in my mind that Shanahan and Lynch are wed to Purdy, and that there's a very good chance that if this is a shorter term deal, it could be Jed kind of hedging on the whole regime. What if they, they're going to pay Brock, they're going to pay him top dollar, they're going to make sure they get the deal done. But it sounds very much like it might be a shorter term deal. It might not be a long term deal. It might be a few less years. And maybe that's Jed's way of kind of, keeping Jed, or keeping Jed's way of keeping John and Kyle's feet to the fire. And for Kyle to come out and say, Brock Purdy's the only quarterback I want here the entire time that I'm here, who knows? Maybe that's something that he's saying because Jed may have said to him, hey, look, we'll extend Brock. We'll give him 2-3 years, but we want to see some progress. And if it doesn't happen, that's it. I mean, I don't know. Kyle always says, hey, man, I got a great relationship with Jed. John always says, I got a great relationship with Jed. Jed always maintains that he loves both guys and thinks very highly of them. And they've had a lot of success together, so there's no reason he shouldn't think that. But you don't get forever. Andy Reid got 13 years in Philly, didn't win a Super Bowl, and eventually they said goodbye. You don't get forever. And if this, the Niners backslid this year to 6 wins. If they sign Brock Purdy to an extension and they win 5 games this year and 6 games the year after that, and you're looking at a 3-year window where they won less than 20 games in the regular season combined over 3 seasons, yeah, then Brock, Lynch could be gone, Shanahan could be gone, and the Niners might say goodbye to Brock Purdy because I doubt he's going to play awesome if they're winning 5 or 6 games a year. So, maybe the shorter term rumor that's out there may just be that Jed wants to hedge against the entire regime. So, Breer said a couple other interesting things. He said Deebo Samuel, he said, I think he's gone. He said the Niners are likely going to have to cut some veteran players. He named Javon Hargrave. I don't think either of those are a huge surprise. But let's take a look at the Jared Goff deal for a second and see if we can get a pretty good idea of where the Brock Purdy deal could come in when comparing it and adjusting for inflation. Okay, so first of all, Jared Goff signed his deal in May of 2024. It was a 4-year, $212 million deal, and it was signed, as I said, in May of 2024. So over the cap is indicating that the 2025 NFL salary cap this year was $255.4 million, and that it's projected to go up from $255.4 million to $272.5 million. So you have the cap continuing to go up by a pretty sizable amount, and thus you have to adjust for inflation when you're looking at these numbers. So let's just take it for example. The AAV, the average annual value of the Jared Goff deal, it was, as I said, signed in May of 2024, 4 years, $212 million contract. The AAV was $53 million, which was not the highest in football. It was the 6th highest in football. So if you adjust that for inflation, then Purdy's AAV, if he gets the Jared Goff deal exactly, would be $56.4 million. And I think that's probably right on the money of where this deal is going to be. I mean, I haven't done any real particular breakdowns, but this one would be as close as we've come to a very precise particular breakdown. And I will put this down and say that this would be my final guess of where it all sits. So if the AAV on Goff's was sixth highest in the NFL at $53 million when he signed his deal in May of 2024, and then Brock, if you adjust for inflation, his AAV would be $56.4 million. I think that's exactly in line with where the 49ers want to be, and I think that's a good compromise position for both parties. Now, let's look closer at the Goff deal because it's not just AAV. There is guaranteed money at signing. He was guaranteed at signing $113.6 million. That was seventh highest in the NFL. His total guarantees on his contract were $170 million, which was eighth highest in the league. His contract value, as we said, was $212 million, which was 13th highest in the NFL. So he was not the highest paid player. And the percentage of the cap at signing for Jared Goff was 20.7%. 13th, and that was 13th in the NFL as far as percentage of the cap, 20.7% of the cap. So, you know what? There are numbers out there that say that if you pay your quarterback over 22% of the cap, that you can't win, so on and so forth. I don't know if I believe all those numbers, but they're just looking back at recent history and telling you how it's gone. But I think that's a pretty good estimation. I think Breer, today kind of painted a picture and gave us a pretty good estimation of where this deal with Brock is coming in. And I would say the deal gets done probably in the next, month. I would say probably it gets done in the next 3 weeks, but, almost assuredly it gets done before March the 12th, the beginning of the new NFL calendar year. So, I think Breer's on it. I mean, I think, that's been the reporting. I think Diana Rossini said it would be between 55 and 60. Now Breer's saying he thinks it's going to be in the $50 million range, that they'll find some middle ground, that he won't be the highest paid quarterback, that they may trade some raw dollars for an extra year of guarantees, that the Jared Goff deal is the model, is the template for the Purdy deal. That the Niners, let's make no mistake about it, they want him, they love him, they're tied to him, he's their guy, they're going forward with him, they're not hedging, they're not worried. They may have to move off of Debo, they may have to cut some veterans to create more cap room, but it sounds like you're going to see a deal that is very similar to Goff's. 4 years, $212 was his deal, signed, once again a year ago. Now here we are, it's, February of 2025. And so Brock's AAV could be right about 56.4 million. I think the guarantees could be very similar. Could be over $100 million in guarantees at signing. You could have well over $150 million in total guarantees. And it maybe more than that. Maybe it's $175 million in total guarantees. But I do believe that they will get it done. I do believe it will be under 60, but over 50. And I think 56.4 AAV is absolutely a great guess. Absolute great guess. And when you look at the cap going from $255.4 million to $272.5 million, and you account for the inflation and you say, well, he's going to get a Goff-like contract, there ain't nothing wrong with 56.4 AAV for Brock Purdy. And I think he'd probably be satisfied with that. And I think if you're his agent, you want to leave a little meat on that bone for a number of reasons. So the team can afford to build an offensive and defensive line around him so that, that you win in the court of public opinion. And I think this would be a fair and equitable deal, and a deal that makes sense. Is Jared Goff a superstar? No. But is he the Lions quarterback? Are they committed to him? Do they think they can win a championship with him? Yeah. And I would say the exact same thing about Brock Purdy. Is he a superstar? No. But is he their guy? Yeah. Is he the guy they think they can win with? Yeah. Do I believe they can win with him? Yeah, I do. And I do believe if that is the way the thing is penned out, that he winds up getting 56.4 million AAV. You know, I think that's absolutely reasonable. I think that is absolutely right there in the sweet spot of probably what he deserves. And that shows a little bit of a compromise, a little bit of finding middle ground on both sides. You're taking care of him in a big way. You're giving him a lot of guaranteed dollars. Maybe he's even getting most of those guaranteed dollars in the first 2 or 3 years of the deal. You're getting him up there with the top tier quarterbacks. You're paying him money that also reflects that he's not the best quarterback in pro football, but he's going to be paid among the best quarterbacks in pro football, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So very interesting report from Breer, and I think you can take that one to the bank. He says they're going to find middle ground, that he's not going to be the highest paid quarterback, that his AAV is going to start in the 50s, that it's going to be very comparable to the Goff deal, and if you account for inflation, that would mean $56.4 million, and I think that's absolutely right in the sweet spot of what Brock probably deserves and what I could see the 49ers offering. So I think we're finally starting to get the picture painted a little bit clearer, and I think this Breer story or this Breer interview today on the Rich Eisen show really illustrates that they're getting close to completing this deal. And it's important that the Niners get it completed, and maybe get it completed before the calendar year turns to, March 12th is the beginning of the new NFL calendar year. Because if you do want to go into free agency and get anybody, you're going to have to know, what you got to spend. And if you really are going to go for a wide receiver, I would say most wide receivers are going to want to know who's throwing them the ball. So I think it's really important that the Niners get this deal done with Brock Purdy early. They really made a mistake last year waiting as long as they did on Ayuk and Trent, and I think it really impacted the year. I don't think they were going to win the Super Bowl anyway, but it didn't help. This is your quarterback. He's got to be there for OTAs. He's got to be there for installations. He's got to be there at minicamp. He's got to be there to lead the team. And he's your hardest working guy. He wants to get it done. You want to get it done, so get it done. And I think Breer kind of painted a picture of how that can actually happen. All right, thanks to Pig in a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Of course, thanks to our good friends at Better. Once again, download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners to get your first deposit matched up to $200. This video is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.